This morning, a shocking article in La Presse says that children escorted by police to leave daycares because of homeless people and injection sites next to them.
Oh,
I'm quoting
God.
the director of the daycare. It's not normal to have to walk through with policemen around a daycare. Why, with the support of the Bloc, is this Prime Minister putting our children in danger by allowing violent repeat offenders take drugs on our streets? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, nurses, hospital personnel, and all patients and Canadians should be able to feel safe in their workplaces and in hospitals. This is our government has supported $1 billion in the healthcare system to make sure Canadians have access to the best healthcare possible. The difference between us and the Conservative Party is that while they seek to criminalize those who are most vulnerable, drug addicts, we are rolling up our sleeves and working at all levels of government to resolve this crisis. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Speaker, he didn't hear the question. It was in terms of daycares. Yes, because of the decriminalization in BC, nurses had to breathe in crack and meth fumes. But now I'm talking about Montreal, where his policies led to the liberation of violent criminals and drugs in the streets next to a daycare. Once again, my question, why is the Bloc and the Liberals, why are they not accepting our common sense plan to eliminate drugs and put criminals in prison? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, what the Conservative leader is proposing is a step back to policies of the Harper years, which failed in the fight against drug addiction. And even one of the government's Harper advisors recognizes that it was a clear failure. We're going to continue to be here to make sure, assure security for everyone, including for children in daycares, with a compassion-based approach, a health-based approach, and keeping people safe. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition. Many Canadians want to go back to the days when children didn't need police officers at their daycares, Mr.
Yeah,
Speaker.
man.
But
It's even crazy that they're at high schools and stuff like that.
Liberal government is not worth the cost. The Bloc voted for $500 billion in inflationary bureaucratic spending and centralizing spending. This has caused 60% of consumers to say that they are in stress. When will the Bloc change its tax and inflationary spending on the backs of Quebecers? The Right Honourable Prime Minister, Mr. Speaker, the Conservative leader has just explained that his approach is austerity. Austerity for a government that would make it hard for people. We have chosen to invest to help Canadians. For example, help seniors with dental care. And since the beginning of May, there have been more than 100,000 seniors able to obtain dental care across our country. This is an initiative that helps keep costs down and take care of vulnerable people. And the Conservative Party will continues to vote against it and even tried to block it across the country. This is shameful. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
About austerity, well, I think that the Bransfield family of 4 in Calgary can tell him all about austerity, because that's what they're living right now because of his housing hell, his carbon taxes, and his inflation. They said, close quote, "We're having to choose between paying a bill or getting food, and that can be really hard. It makes things really difficult. And I just don't see an end in sight. Will the Prime Minister accept our common sense plan to axe the tax, fix the budget, build the homes, so that the Bransfield family and so many others can eat, heat, and house themselves?"
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I disagree with the Leader of the Opposition.
Of course you do.
Take away the Canada carbon rebate checks that arrive 4 times a year in the bank accounts of the Bransfield families. Indeed, 8 out of 10 Canadians, according to the Parliamentary Budget Officer, are better off with the Canada carbon rebate as we fight climate change with the price on pollution. 8 out of 10 Canadian families from coast to coast in the jurisdictions where the carbon price applies are better off. That includes, most likely, the Bransfield family, and we will continue to be there for them.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Let's not be mistaken. I have the great respect for the state of Israel, but things have to stop. With this in mind, is the Prime Minister ready to support the ICG and the ICC to adhere to international law and help all peoples who could be subject to arrest on Canadian territory? And is he ready to apply the Canadian sanctions regime to Israelis who openly commit crimes against humanity in the Gaza Strip?
The
Right Honourable Prime
Rafah
Minister.
thing?
Mr. Speaker, Canada supports the independent work of the ICJ and the ICC. We are here to support the process and to ensure that everyone follows international law, including the rulings of these courts. We are here to support processes multilaterally to make sure that international law is adhered to. We are a country of rule of law, and we will remain so.
Smash the like button if you guys haven't yet.
When I was housing minister, we built almost 200,000 houses and apartments, with the average rent being $973 for a one-bedroom apartment. But this Prime Minister is not worth the cost of housing, which has doubled 9 years after he and the NDP took power. What's he doing about it? He's giving $500 million to the mayor of Toronto, who has just jacked up home building taxes by 20%. Why does he reward local government gatekeepers that block the homes that Canadians need?
Why does he reward failure?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
It's the Liberal motto.
We are leading on the efforts to solve this housing crisis with a plan that is ambitious and concrete.
Okay.
Meanwhile, after having his housing bill panned by experts as being, quote, exceptionally weak response to the housing crisis riddled with loopholes, the Conservative leader chose to repeatedly delay debate in this House since October on his bill. That's because he just doesn't care. When he was minister, he lost 800,000 affordable apartments and only built 6 affordable homes.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Actually, the number is closer to 200,000, but the Prime Minister's never been very good with numbers, right? So the Prime Minister cites the government-funded bureaucrats and liberal academics to bolster his approach, which has doubled housing costs in just 9 years, partly because he gives money to municipalities and politicians like Winnipeg, where they just blocked 2,000 homes right next to a government-funded transit station built for those homes. Why won't he accept my common sense plan to give bonuses to those municipalities that permit more building and penalties to those that stand in the way?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we criticize rightly the Leader of the Opposition, who, when he was housing minister, only built 6 affordable homes for Canadians across the country. But it is understandable, Mr. Speaker, because he was part of a government that took the federal government out of the building of affordable housing. They chose that the federal government had nothing to do with housing across the country. That's why for 10 years of non-involvement of the federal government, that leaves echoes. We've stepped up and invested in communities, invested in partnerships. We're getting the homes built. We're delivering for Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Sure. Housing costs have doubled since he became Prime Minister. They were half when I was housing minister. Housing costs have gone up 40% faster than wages, a bigger gap than in any other G7 country. Why? Because he's building bureaucracy and not homes. Why won't he accept my common sense plan to require municipalities permit 15% more building, sell off 6,000 federal buildings to build homes, and cut taxes so builders can build?
That sounds pretty good to me.
Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, just like when he was housing minister, his solution is to do less to help Canadians, to invest less in supporting municipalities as they build housing, to get out of the way and leave Canadians to fend for themselves. That is his political philosophy. It is a political philosophy. It's just not the one that supports Canadians. It's not the one that is delivering for Canadians as we step up with the most ambitious and achievable housing plan this country has ever seen. We will continue to be there to invest in housing accelerators. We'll be there to continue to take the GST off of purpose-built apartments. We will be there for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Belleville-Chambly. In mid-March, the NDP had a motion adopted in support of Palestine. It was a rather balanced one, and the Liberals decided not to recognise the Palestinian state through it. Today, while supporting a two-state solution, like the Prime Minister has just said, is he ready to add his country's voice to other countries that officially recognise a Palestinian state? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, it is very urgent to establish a credible path towards long-term peace, and so we are against the Netanyahu government's efforts to reject a two-state solution. In parallel, Hamas, a terrorist group, controls regions of Gaza and have not given up the fight and have not freed all hostages. Canada is ready to...
And so we're taking in 5,000 of their families?
...state at a moment that's the most conducive to long-term peace, and not only at the very end of a negotiation process towards a two-state solution.
He just said they're run by terrorist entity Hamas.
Member for Belleville-Chambly.
Yeah, we're taking them in as refugees.
International relations doesn't go through this kind of rhetoric, Mr. Speaker.
What?
We have to be concrete and we have to be strong. Is the best time to recognize the Palestinian state not now? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, for decades, Canada's position has been eminently clear and continues to be eminently clear. The only solution for peace in the Middle East is to have a safe and recognized Palestinian state next to an Israeli state that is safe and recognized. That's the only way. Our position for a long time has been that this recognition of a Palestinian state needs to come at the end of this process. We today recognize that it's not necessarily at the end of this process that we will recognize the Palestinian state.